Hi y'all. Is rust a problem in your shop? Let's talk about some options. Hi, this is Mike Peace Woodturning. I'm an avid wood turner. I'm passionate about it. I want to share with you tools, tips, and techniques to help you become a better wood turner. Today we're going to talk a little bit about rust in your shop. Now, I got to be the first one to tell you, I'm probably no expert on this because fortunately I am blessed to have an air-conditioned shop year-round. I have air conditioning in the summertime. I have heating in the winter because my shop is in my basement. So I don't have the same kind of issues that most of y'all have. I have some of the same, a few things I can talk about. I am concerned about humidity in my shop, so I keep this humidistat down here. I moved it over to the lathe bed. It was 60 degrees when I first got in here this morning. The temperature was a nice, comfortable 72 degrees, but the thermostat on my air conditioner was set on 77, but here it is mid-July almost, and my shop in the basement is pretty comfortable and the air conditioner wasn't even running. I set it on 72 degrees because that's what it took to get the air conditioner to come on, and the humidity has dropped from 60% to 57%. That's still in the high range. Right here, if this little block is filled up, it says it's high, but you know, anything less than 60% is not a problem for me. And in the wintertime, it'll typically, just from the air condition, from the heating coming on and the lower humidity in the wintertime, generally my shop will stay in the 45 to 55%. First of all, let's talk about some of the products. When we talk about rust, I think we've got couple of different issues. Number one, we've got a light coat of rust that may settle on tools. Again, I don't have that problem. That can be easily dealt with, I think, for most folks by just kind of, you know, when you finish working with them, wipe them down. Most of this common sense, wipe them down with a little oily rag with a little 3-in-1 oil will probably solve a number of issues. And this goes not only for tools but also for chucks and jaws, especially for items you aren't going to use for a while. You can always wipe them down when you get ready to use them and wipe this stuff off. There are any number of spray products, and I've tried several of them. When I first got interested in woodworking, shortly before I got interested in wood turning, I bought a can of this this stuff called Bow Shield, and here's a neat little trick. You know, anytime you got a spray can, bend over a straw, tape it on the outside, and you know, if it's got one of these little sprayers, easy way to keep it. But Bow Shield is a waterproof lubrication, rust and corrosion control. It's used for any number of things, but it works real well for cast iron. You can put it on different thicknesses. You can put it on real heavy if you're going to leave it a while. If you got a winter home, or you got something that's going to be out of commission for not used for several months. This is a great way to put just spray it all on, as the instructions say, and allow it to dry. For some things you don't want a heavy coat, just do a light coat, spray it on, and then wipe it off. And if you need to remove it, you know, you can use mineral spirits or a degreaser. I don't use this much. I bought this back, as I said, when I got into woodworking, and you know, I read somewhere that it's good to spray this stuff on your table saw or your bandsaw top, and it works. I just don't have a need to do that much, but it does keep rust away, and it does provide a lubricant. I think for some people the issue is not also your tools, but it's also mechanisms. And if that's the case, you've got to look at a product, you know, for hinges and gears and that sort of thing. There's a couple of different ways to go with it. Number one, you know, I think if it's something that's going to be subject to dust, you probably want to use a dry lubricant. Again, this is not for putting on your tabletop. Cast iron tops, although I understand some people do use this. Spray it on there and try it and rub it in. If it works for you, I'd say that's great. It says it does not contain silicone, which is a real problem for some people that do flat work, because if you get silicone on your wood, it can interfere with finishes, but presumably that's not an issue. But it's great for gears and so forth. I use this on my chuck inside the chuck mechanism. Although the manufacturer generally, if it's closed in chuck, by closed in, I mean like this, if it's got a backing on it, you got to take it apart, which I only have to do every 5 to 10 years. You know, you can't just use, the manufacturer says just use a good quality grease. But if it's something that's not subject to dust, I think this white lithium grease seems to work real well. I don't use this in my shop really. All I use this for is my garage door opener mostly. I don't want to forget to give a shout out to Four Oaks Craft for suggesting this video. Now, this is an item that I tend to want to treat more than anything else because my bandsaw, it doesn't get as much use as my lathe, and it gets a lot of wet wood on it, so I do clean it off periodically, and I do have a few minor rust stains. They just don't cause me any concern. But I think there's two issues. Number one is there's the rust issue, and that for me that also tends to be in the miter slot, so my miter slot slide. But I think the issue that becomes more of an issue is how slick the table is. So for me the best solution for that, and probably the cheapest, is just use a coat of Minwax or any other paste wax. I clean it off, I rub on a coat, I let it dry for a few minutes, and then I come back and with another rag and just buff it in real good, and that coat lasts a long time. That really helps when you got large blocks of wood that you're sliding across your bandsaw. But another technique that Roger Davison suggests was using a piece of wax paper. This tip was actually, give credit for Woodworker's Journal, but they say they credit Roger Davison first. Let's just get a piece of wax paper and just use that, and it'll transfer enough wax to coat the table and make it slick. You know, so that's a pretty good trick. You know, this stuff is, I don't use it that often, so it's not real expensive, but I tell you what I do sometimes. When I've got a very large block of wood where, you know, I've got this thing, you know, cranked up, and I'm doing a block of wood that's 6 or 8 inches tall, and it's heavy. Maybe I'm having to use a jig because I'm using this like a little bandsaw mill. I will often use a piece of wax paper to put that block on because it makes it easier to slide. And sure, I cut up the paper, but who cares? It's cheap. So that's another possibility. Frankly, most of the time, for a lot of things, especially when it comes to my bedways on my lathe, you know, I've showed this tip before. I got this tip from John Jordan, and that's at the end of the day. Sometimes, rarely, you know. It's the beginning of the day, and I didn't clean up yesterday, so, you know, bear with me while I knock some of these the dust off with my horsehair brush. His suggestion is just take a little WD-40, spray it on your bedway, and then wipe it down. I use a really thick, heavy-duty, non-abrasive pad, and I put it back in this plastic bag, and I've been using this thing for years. And you just kind of rub it in a little bit. I don't get crazy about it. I'm just putting a little bit of coat to make it most everything slide better and get the inside of your bedways, and then, you know, I pull out my banjo and kind of wipe underneath it. Now, I know a number of people say, well, WD-40 is not a good rust prevention, and some of y'all got more experience with that in damp climates, especially if you've got shops in a shed or a garage or a carport. Well, I'll certainly defer to you, but the manufacturer says it does protect against rust and corrosion. So mostly it displaces water, so it's great for areas where you're trying to, you know, you're trying to displace water. But it's also says best for rust protection. It says spray it on and don't wipe it off. So it's fast, it's easy. I use this a lot. The technique I use it for also is, get this chuck off. At the beginning of the day, I like to take a little bit of it and just rub the face of my spindle, and it just keeps that, you get a little gunk off of it, and it also keeps the your chuck from sticking. So that's a solution that I use because it's fast and easy. There was one other technique I almost forgot. Sam Angelo, the Wyoming woodturner, says he uses a little spray shellac. I think he uses a couple of coats, and it gets down into the pores on that cast iron for your bedways and tables, and then puts a light coat of wax on it. So I know there's a lot of y'all out there got a lot more experience dealing with rust than I do. So if you got any suggestions or comments, leave them in the comment below. This is your community, so if anybody leaves a comment, don't feel like I'm the only one that can respond to it. If you got a comment, if you read somebody else's comment and you got a comment or suggestion to make, please make it. Y'all stay safe and come back here.